Hey guys, good morning. Happy Monday. If you're watching this up today, or happy day, whatever it is that you're watching it. Thank you for the continuous support and continuously watching my videos. You all have just impacted a lot. The more I do these, they get a little bit easier. Although I am late on this one. I feel like the reasons are semi-valid, but so I usually like to try to get the videos done Thursdays, Fridays, roughly, so I can have it posted by Friday. But this week, Thursday, I was gone literally all day. I didn't have any time to do a video from like sun up to sundown, so that was hard. And then Friday, some of you guys saw, but I woke up with like super anxiety, so I'm not sure what happened there. But I tried to film a couple times and it just got really rough. And then Saturday I filmed and somehow my phone glitched out and I lost it all. So it was like 30 minutes of content. It was a little bit frustrating. So after you go through and put so much energy into it, I just didn't want to do it again that day. So, and then we have Sunday. Saturday night, a friend and my aunt came over and we drank. I didn't go too hard, but I mixed a few different things. I probably shouldn't have. I probably should have just stuck with one type of drink. So I just was feeling really bad and hungover Sunday. So here we are Monday. We're gonna get this done. So this is gonna be a two-part segment. This video is going to be based on my life. I'm going to kind of give you guys like a full life story, just kind of like the chain of events. So that in the future, when I kind of go back and forth on my stories of just like this happened, because not all of them are going to be in chronological order. So if you watch this video, you can have an idea of, okay, so if when she was down in New Mexico, it means that during this time. So I'm going to give that. It might be kind of longer. I'm going to try to like fly through it, but the first half I have, I'll try to make it like 30 minutes or less. And then by this Thursday, when I put up my second video for like part 2, that'll be for like this week coming out. So I hope you guys enjoy my story. I hope I tell it the best I can. And here we go. Much love. So I do want to throw in a quick tangent real fast, since you can see all the marks all over me. I'm clearly not wearing makeup. I've got coconut oil in my hair, so I'm a little bit of a mess today, but I'm a comfortable mess. So anyways, so this is my bar top. My bar. But the bar top I made it out of epoxy. So I did like the epoxy pour on it, and it was a lot of fun, and I really liked doing it. But 2 days after I did that, I broke out like really bad and like hives. And so I didn't think it would be that, because I didn't think it would take so long, I guess. I thought it would be like an immediate reaction. So I decided to use epoxy again about 2 weeks ago at this point. And so I went and used the epoxy to make these little like chakra things. And so anyways, I broke out like immediately. Son's making noises. So I broke out. So I've got a bunch of hives all over me still. I've seen a dermatologist. So hopefully the medicine helps the stuff go away soon and I won't be all like bumpy. But yeah, just so you know, my eye too. So if I look kind of rough, that's honestly why. It was a rough weekend, and then on top of just the hives. So we're good though. Anyways, story time, lifetime. Alright, so my kid's just all over the place and he's in here, so if I kind of get distracted or keep looking this way, that's probably why. So anyways, so I start off born in Salt Lake City, Utah. I believe Riverton technically, but just Salt Lake. So we lived a lot of different places. I remember living with some aunts and uncles. I remember trailer homes, all these type of places, in and out. We always moved a lot, but we mostly lived at my grandparents' house in Bountiful. And then we moved down to St. George, Utah, which I'm not sure how old I was, but I know that I was in kindergarten and first grade during the time that we lived down there. So we moved down to St. George, and during that time down there, that's where I start to have the more memories, because I do hit that like 6 or 7 age. And so a lot of the memories, I think I said this one before, but anybody who hasn't heard it, one of the first ones I remember is I was spanked a lot, even at a young age. There was a time that I don't remember if it was a Saturday or what, but my one older brother, so he had to have been 8 or 9 at the time, a little bit older, because I was 5, 6, 7 in that kindergarten time. And kindergarten, first grade, he asked my second older brother and I if we wanted to go for a walk. By the time we got back to the house, my parents were furious. Of course they would be. They didn't know where we went. But the part is, my one second older brother and I were the only ones that got punished. What happened to my older brother? I don't know. Probably went inside and got some fruit snacks or something, you know, because that's just how it was for him. So my one other brother and I, we had to stand in a circle. I mean, like, rotate while we had our pants down to our ankles, and my dad whipped us with a belt. Actually, that story, I don't remember if it was a switch or a belt, but we got spanked having to walk in a circle with our pants down. So it was pretty miserable. He was just very abusive at a young age. Like I said, I don't think I ever saw my oldest brother got hit once, like, in my life. But my second older brother, he got into it a lot with my dad. So we're down there, and I believe that's where I broke my elbow. So there's one of my hives. So when I was about 6 years old, I remember my dad thinking he was funny, and he had tripped me, and I was by some stairs. So I had fell down and broke the elbow. Sure. Sorry if this is choppy. I have to stop every once in a while to make sure my son isn't, you know, breaking things, which sounded like he was getting back into the bar. So yeah, he tripped me down the stairs and I broke my elbow. After that, I remember going to the hospital. I don't remember too much more about St. George. I have some other stories, but that's for a different time. So anyways, so we moved back up to Bountiful, where we moved back to my grandma's house, and I was second grade at the time. I remember the school year had just started, and this is where I went to Muir Elementary, where I went from all the way to, like, through elementary school. So it was at least I did that. So I developed some friends over time there, right? At 9 years old, we were introduced to the Mormon church. My mom had already grown up LDS, so my grandma was fairly LDS, so I guess after living there, she put some pressure on my parents, and they eventually joined. So my dad, I think he stopped being pretty physical for a little bit when we first joined the church. I think he really did want to try to be that priesthood person, but really, like, his anger and all that, it didn't stop. So me and my one younger brother and then my two older brothers were all baptized the same day into the Mormon church. So I believe we lived with my grandma until I was in about 5th or 6th grade. I'm not positive, but then we moved a couple, like, houses down, a couple blocks away, streets away. And so we were still in the same church ward. That's what the LDS church calls, like, the group, or, like, the neighborhood that you go to with. It's your ward. So, like, I was still in the same. So thankfully, it was still a lot of the same people. And my dad was still trying to put on, like, that show. I just noticed that every time we moved and went to a different ward is when he started falling out of the church more and more, right? It just got easier and easier. So that's just kind of what, like, influenced the rest of the family. So we lived there for about a year, and then my parents actually bought the home across the street. So my dad was still just kind of the abusive piece of trash, honestly. Just the same old, throwing his stuff, always just having to be on edge, like, oh no, like, is he gonna come home in a good mood? Or just always, like, I was just always high anxiety with him, which I'll talk about another time. So they bought the house across the street, and I remember moving was super easy, right? Just because we literally took, like, dollies of stuff across the street. So it was super cool. So that home, we probably lived at the longest. I believe we lived there for about 3 years, but that's probably the worst home for me, because that's where the sexual abuse started. So I was about 12, 13 when we moved into that home, and then that's just kind of where my life, I guess, started going downhill. Was once we moved into that house. That's when things started changing. I started becoming, like, more strict and watched. I know I was also getting older. That's when I was hitting junior high and all those things. So there's a few factors, but yeah, I hated that home. So we lived there for about 3 years, and one day somebody comes and knocks on the door when my dad's at work. And so it was a summer vacation day. So all of us kids are home, and I just hear someone kind of talking upstairs to my mom, and we're just trying to listen. My mom just crying. But anyways, long story, we had like 24 hours to get out of the house. My mom was really bad financially, so she got some kind of, like, escrow. I don't even know, because I honestly don't even care. But something happened with my mom and money, and so anyways, so they lost the house. So from there, we actually had, sorry, I'm looking down at my notes because I don't want to, like, mix up my timeline. So from there, we actually moved up the road to by my old junior high. So at this time, I'd been a sophomore in high school. So my mom just kind of, as always, scammed some money for my grandma. So us losing our home really sucked. But at the same time, like, we thankfully had people who helped us when they shouldn't have helped my parents. So we had a house to move into, which was up by my old junior high. So I was still thankfully in the same school district. So I went to Bountiful High, Mila Park Junior High, and then to Bountiful High. So I went with my two older brothers. I loved it there, honestly. Like, it was my school. So by my junior year, of course, we moved, like I told you all the time, we moved to another house, like, still up in North Salt Lake area. It's probably about 10 minutes about where from we lived, but it was just in a different school district. Actually, it was at my rival school district, which was Woods Cross. So I finished out my senior year, my junior year, but then next year my brother was going to be a sophomore and I was a senior. So anyway, so we started off, but for some reason they didn't let him go to Bountiful. They said, no, you're in the Woods Cross boundaries, even though I was going to Bountiful. So what happened is I started off at Bountiful, and then my dad made me switch over to Woods Cross. It wasn't terrible because the people that were in my ward, my neighborhood that lived around me when I was going to church at the time, a lot of them went to Woods Cross. So it was kind of nice being able to see a few people in the hallways, but like I just left everything I knew, like just knowing the campus, everything, like, so I was a bit frustrated. So now this is my second high school, my senior year. So I went to Woods Cross. That's when stuff just, started to get worse. So we finished up our year lease on that house. And, because we moved in, like, when I was at the end of my junior year. So we finished up and the lease, and they didn't want us to renew. I don't know if my parents were late on rent or whatever. So my parents ended up trying to, again, buy a home. This time it was down in Pleasant Grove. Now, for you guys who aren't familiar with Utah, Bountiful, it's like a 40-minute drive, depending on traffic, but yeah. So turned around, but here's the thing. Here's when it really changed. So my parents were in the middle of buying this house, and my dad decided, so it was kind of a fixer-upper. We take a time. He said we're going to take about a month to do it, and since or not a month, like a couple weeks, I don't remember. Our lease was almost up, so it's like we had like a month to get out. So we were down to, so my dad decides that he's going to live down there at the Pleasant Grove house, and then while the family stays back. But the family got to stay back, but me. So, again, my child. This one is a little bit harder for me to talk about, though. So when we moved to Pleasant Grove, I just kind of took like some essential stuff, some clothes, some school stuff, and I went and I got registered at Pleasant Grove High School, and this sucked. It was. At this point, it was hitting on December. We hadn't really gone to church down there. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anybody at the school. And I didn't have the time to make the friends either because my dad was still doing the phone check. He was still, like, always going through. And, so he had this system where when you went, like, the older phones, you could see, like, how many, when you looked at your inbox or whatever, like, 67 in there, received 69. But then he had, like, in the settings where he would reset it, it said how many messages I received and sent out for the day. So if it said, like, I sent out 68 and in my inbox only says 66, then what messages were these? So I had to be super careful. So that was still happening. And then, of course, since it was just him and I, like, every day right before school started, he dropped me off and then went to work. And then he would leave work early so he could come and pick me up right on time. When, honestly, many times I would have loved to have just walked home because spending alone time with just him sucked. So the day sucked. School sucked. Had no friends, knew nobody, wasn't allowed to talk to anybody really. Like if I could talk to them, I couldn't really make friends with them. So I hated it down in Pleasant Grove. And then that's when it got worse because now I'm living with my father, just him and I. And my second older brother, James, he would come down like on the weekends and help us do some work. So I was extremely grateful when he would come down and help us do some painting or whatever. But yep, so it was just my dad and I. So guess what? he started to get super comfortable, and that's when he just took over on me. That's when he just started doing whatever he wanted to me. So Pleasant Grove was probably one of the worst memories that I have, on top of the other house I was telling you about, because that's where he officially just was no holds back on me anymore. Alright, so I got him temporarily distracted, so let's see if I can finish this without having to stop 100 times. So, where was it? Oh yeah, so we're down in Pleasant Grove, and this is another story that's probably on its own that I'll talk about another day. But so we lived down there, and yeah, so he just got really close with me, like we're, just forcibly really close to me. So I hated it. I was actually really miserable with life. And then, go figure, my parents and their, wonderful upkeep on finances and credit and all of that, the housing didn't go through. So here I am, just spending the last almost a month down in Pleasant Grove with just my father, fixing up this house that we didn't get in the end anyways. All the time and the money that they spent, me going to a different high school when I didn't even have to leave the original one because we would have found a different home, because you know what, my parents suck. But so anyways, so Pleasant Grove didn't work out, and immediately we didn't know what to do. So my uncle and his family down in Santa Quinn said, hey, you guys can come stay with us for a little bit till you figure it out. So we did, and then I went and got checked into Payson High School. Now this is number 4. This is my 4th high school, my senior year. So at Payson, it was a little bit easier at the time because my cousin went there. She was my age. We were both seniors, so it was a little bit nicer knowing somebody. So that didn't make me as anxious, but I still hated it. I was just still in a completely different area, new kid, new senior year. There was a lot of work. But I ended up making some decent friends there. It seemed like I had a little bit more leeway because my dad couldn't get away with some of the things living at my uncle's house. So I felt like I kind of started to feel a little bit more free at the time. So I thought that maybe things were kind of going to dissipate at this time. Honestly, I thought, I'm not doing it. He's not having me do things nearly as much. He's not doing things, it's just, he doesn't have that privacy that he used to. So living there actually probably helped a lot for in the moment to subside all the angers and the frustrations I was feeling. So we stayed at my uncle's house for about a month, and this time I think we're hitting into the end of January. So what happened is I wasn't the nicest person, and one day I had a kid ask me on the bus ride home something about my cousin, and my response wasn't what it should have been, speaking about my cousin that way. So long story short, this dude was friends with my cousin. He told her what I said, and so she told her dad, and then he turned around and was yelling at me, in which my dad turned around and was like, oh hey, blah blah blah, trying to pretend to be a dad. So they're brothers, so they got into a fight, and cops were called that night, and so bye, we had to be kicked out of there. So then my other uncle was just hey, I have some room for you guys, but not a lot. So during this time, my dad decided, we're going to save up our money, move to New Mexico. So yeah, just let us live there for about 2 weeks or so, and then we'll get out of your hair. So that's exactly what did. Although during this time when we were at that uncle's house, my mom and dad didn't check us back into school because the plan was go down to New Mexico. So they're just you're fine, just take 2 weeks off. So we didn't go, and during that time, that's when I went and got checked out of Payson and said bye to the people that I did meet. Be like, yep, it's nice to know you for a minute. And sorry guys, my hair's a total mess. All that coconut oil. So yeah, we then lived at my uncle's house for a minute, and sure enough, the day came, and we took 3 vehicles, the family U-Haul, the car, the whatever, and we drove down to Rio Rancho, New Mexico, where we actually didn't have anything set up. We moved into a hotel. Yep, we just kind of put our stuff in a storage, or I think we had the U-Haul for a week. So we just waited until something cheap, and then my parents found a little trailer home that was $800 a month or something. So sure enough, we moved in, and I got registered into Rio Rancho High School. So at this time, it had actually been mid-February. it wasn't quite my birthday. February 19th is my birthday. So we get down there, we get settled in, we find this home. And shortly after I turned 18, this was my first escape attempt. I was still in school, but I tried to just leave. Yeah, so I left in middle of the night. It was cold, but I just had like a backpack and some basic clothes, and that's when I walked to the airport. Walked, and then the story I told before, got to the airport just to turn around, and within a few hours he was there. So by the time I just got to the airport is when they were waking up, and he was like, oh, and somebody was like, oh, she's probably at the airport. So I don't know how he just had this so he found me. I guess the only way to get out of a state is to something like that, right? So I got back, brought me back home, and I went to Rio Rancho High School. There it really sucked because the counselor pulls me in and he says, well, Utah isn't willing to graduate you through their school system for some reason, so we have to graduate you through New Mexico. And I was like, whatever. And so he tells me in order to graduate through New Mexico, you have to take New Mexico history was one of them. I want to say it was like economics, graduation requirement course for down there, but not Utah. So 2 courses I hadn't taken before that all of a sudden. So now I didn't have time to fit them in seminary into my schedule because we were still LDS. So I did early morning seminary, and then I went to school all day, right? Did my regular schoolwork, and then I came home and I had those 2 courses I had to take online. So then I had 2 more classes. So let's just say, long story short, I just hurried through everything. So I think I ended up with a C or B average at the end of my graduation, just because I was trying to play catch up over being able to just focus and finish out, which really sucked because I worked really hard, on everything up until then. So here we go, graduation day. So my father was always super jealous. So I'm graduating with my kids, and at least I got to that point, because there was, when they first told me about the classes, they're just like, well, we can graduate you in the summer or whatever, and I said, no, I've worked so hard to get to here, so I'm at least going to graduate with the people I don't know, with the class. So I did. I got all my courses done, everything I needed to graduate on time. So graduation day comes, and before my parents came out, in the hallway when I was with some of the kids, there was a couple friends that I made relations with somewhat over the 2 months that I was there. So I made these relationships, and so anyways, so this one guy comes up and he hugs me, nice to meet you, hope we can, trying to exchange numbers. And right in that moment is when my father comes down, and he was mad. He came up and was immediately, so I just walked away from the dude. I was like, I gotta go, because I wasn't about to have my dad trying to beat up a high school kid over talking to his daughter, because he was jealous, super weird. So I was like, I'm so sorry, but I can't finish this conversation. So I left, and so he didn't allow me to get pictures or nothing like that. It was just kind of a let's go. So cool. So I don't have any graduation pictures, which honestly sucks a lot. The next weekend I think he felt bad, so he tried to take me out for photos, so but it's not the same. It's just not the same. So I never got any graduation photos with any of my friends, and it was honestly a big some of these things meant a lot to me, but he didn't care. So when we get home from my graduation day, he actually tried to be a father in this moment. And he had my brother, while they were at the ceremony, go and pick up a thing of flowers and a big breakfast buffet type thing set out with some fruit and some yogurt. So I got home and I was actually surprised. But no, because he was in a pissed off mood because of what happened with the guy, he went home and everything just flew off the counter. He just shoves it, pushes it. So, yep, graduation. Not only did I get to not graduate with my friends and not get to take pictures with the people I did know down there, and then he comes home and he's just angry. So it's cool. So then there goes my little luncheon thing. So graduation sucked. I had so much high expectation because I saw what my brothers went through, and not for me, not for his little princess. So that's when things got really wild though. So after I graduated high school, one day, so during this time when we lived in New Mexico, my dad stopped working. He just never worked again. He actually used that as an excuse that he was going to work on some acting things or some other things, and he turned around and just let my 1 second older brother work and my mom work, and they just paid for everything. Like, they were the breadwinners, right? So it's like my oldest brother worked, but he always got to keep his money. He didn't pitch into the house or nothing like that. So yeah, so it was all my mom and my brother, because my dad didn't work. So anyways, so one day when everybody's gone and all the younger kids are in school, so it was just, honestly, there's many days it was just him and I, so I was back to a life of hating it. Rewind real fast. Graduation day actually was one of the days I tried to commit suicide. I was just so broken. That's when I went in my room and chugged a bottle of perfume, thinking it would poison me or whatever, and I could just pass out. I passed out, I threw up, but that was it. Woke up the next day just feeling kind of groggy and not so great, and so that was one of them. The other time was actually when I was 16 years old, when we were living up in Bountiful still, when the sexual abuse, like, was just getting rough as far as what he was having me do to him. So twice before by the time I hit 18, I tried to actually kill myself, and I'm just extremely grateful that it didn't work, obviously, because I'm here today now to share this story to you guys. I've got the best son, even though he's wild. And so there's so many reasons that I'm just extremely grateful. And that's why it's important to talk out, because I want people to, like, see what I've gone through and then see where I'm at and go, oh, like, I can do it too, no matter what you've gone through, because everybody's got different challenges. I hear some stories and I'm like, oh man, like, you are strong. And people tell that to me too. So you know what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be this situation or that situation. Like, whatever your situation is, you can do it. You can do it. Excuse me. So, we were home a lot, back to the story, by ourselves. And one day, he sits me down and he's acting nervous, like first kiss nervous. It was really weird. And so I remember he goes, I know you're something like this. I know you're planning on going to college soon and you might be moving back up to Utah. But I was wondering if I can be your boyfriend until you go to college and you get one. Was my reaction. What do I say to this? Do I get a choice? Because no, I do not want my father to be my boyfriend. No, like, I'm ready to leave you, obviously, like, get you out of my life. So no. And I think he could tell I was thrown off, because he goes, well, just think on it and let me know. Cool. I'll think on it and let you know. So at this point, I'm so freaked out, because he started treating me like his wife. They were all working all day, so when my sister got out of school, I had to go with him to go pick her up. I couldn't just go do it by myself, or he couldn't just go do it and let me just have a minute alone time. No, everywhere he had to go, he was going grocery shopping, I had to go with him. So it was like, but he wanted to act like a couple in the store, which was the hard part, which is a big reason I hated going, is because, like, he wanted to, like, make out with me and shit when, like, people were around. But if I refused and pulled away, like, he would grab my arm and he would be extremely rude or manipulative, or just say, fine, just go home and hang myself. Like, yeah, it was horrible. Like, there were reasons that I just gave in, because I was scared. I was scared of this man. So life down there that's when it just started to get really hard. So eventually, after our year there, right after I graduated, we finally moved out to Edgewood, which is about 45 minutes east of Albuquerque, which is the main capital down there. So we moved out to Edgewood, and then my little brothers are still in school. Everybody's just kind of doing their own thing except for me, right? I'm just still home. So we were still going to church at this time. And we got extremely, well, so I got extremely lucky because my dad ended up liking the 2 missionaries that were in the ward. So he would invite them over, that like were serving in our ward. So he would invite them over, like to come have dinners all the time, right? Like sign up on the list. And I loved it because it was just company. It was somebody I could talk to. But they were also boys my age. And so, you know, I don't really get to talk to. So it was like a free reason to be able to kind of, even though you shouldn't flirt with the missionaries, I did. So I ended up flirting kind of extra hard with one of them every time that like my dad's back was turned, I guess, if he would, because he'd be talking to someone else. So it's like he didn't realize it, I guess, or ever catch on. So this missionary and I we broke the rules and we started emailing while he was like there in my ward. So we started talking back and forth, and one day my dad had walked in and while I was like writing the email, and he saw it, so he went back and saw everything. And in that moment, he immediately threw my phone so hard that it left a giant hole in our wall, like a giant, like, and my phone shattered completely. So he was so mad about that. He immediately calls the 2 missionaries and speaks to the one and like threatens his life pretty much. Shouldn't be doing that, but so it wasn't, he was trying to make it look like he was a bad missionary, but in reality, my father was super jealous and just super weird. So they didn't understand why he was like, they understood, but they didn't understand why he was like so mad, like threatening his life mad. So he calls the mission president, or had my brother call the mission president, tell him, and then he got transferred. Needless to say, that was the breaking point. We never went to church again after that. It just was, yep, that was kind of it. And that's actually when he started buying alcohol. Just kind of, one day it was like, here, try this. And so I didn't mind it though, because when I could drink, so I ended up drinking a lot back in my early, like 1920, because he would supply it, and if it meant that I have to not deal with him, then I was going to be drunk. So unfortunately, I did have a little bit of a drinking habit. Thank goodness at the time I didn't have access to drugs or anything like that, because I probably would have became an addict. And so I'm extremely, extremely grateful for some of the past that God has kept me on to keep me like in check, because I can have a little bit of an addictive personality. So he was super jealous. So yeah, life just sucked out there. I was being his little sex slave, like, sorry, but he just was like, at this point, just just full on raping me. Like, I didn't have a choice. He would threaten to kill himself every time if I cried. It was just bad. So like I said, my mom was working a lot, so he just proudly took me as his wife. So at this point, after I had that incident with, not only did we quit the church, but my dad said, yeah, F this place, I don't want to be here anymore. So he didn't care about my brothers and their friends, just like he didn't care about mine. He just, or, their works or anything like that. He just says, you know what, Tennessee sounds good. Let's go to Tennessee. So we up and moved this family to Tennessee. So by this time, so we moved out there, and we moved to a little podunk out in the middle of nowhere place called Greensville. It was up on the very far northeast corner, up past Knoxville, like just kind of like, I think we were like 15-20 minutes away from the Virginia border, like just this tiny little house in middle of nowhere. And so this is where I'm going to stop, because it's kind of the next chapter in my life where a lot of things kind of happened and changed, as far as all that stuff. So, but honestly, it's where things, I feel like, kind of, after a little bit, within a year of Tennessee, things start to get better. So come back later this week and see what happens. But thank you all for taking the time to watch this. Leave me your comments. I know I say a lot, but I just kind of like write my notes down. I don't like to just full on read from it, but like my mind's all over the place. I do kind of get brain fog, or just like the mom brain, whatever you want to call it. So half the time, that's why I just like to ramble and talk, because I feel like I do a lot better than just like, so. If you guys have any questions for me, please leave them in the comments. If you'd like to know anything specifically, if you'd like to know more about more personal details and just want to hear it from just me, like not things I don't share, just always let me know. There are some things I just try to keep more I don't even know the word. Just some things are really, really rough. Like there's some really rough things that happen that are still hard for me to process and share. But hopefully by the time I get to those type of things over time, like I'm more comfortable because I've shared so much already. So, but in this time, there was a lot of the sexual abuse just progressing and getting worse. We'll talk more about that in the future, but like I said, it was just kind of a quick layout of my timeline and my story. So I will see you guys later this week. Thank you. Take care.